The Dominion controlled 17 star systems. Their ships were fast. Their weapons were deadly. Their soldiers were trained to kill without mercy. For 300 years, they had conquered every world they attacked. No species had ever stopped them. No planet had ever resisted for more than a few days. The High Command believed they were unstoppable. Commander Hayes stood in the command center of the flagship Glory. His uniform was dark blue with gold stripes that showed his rank and experience. He had won every battle he fought. His soldiers followed him without question. His superiors trusted him completely. The Council of the Dominion had chosen him for this new mission. They called it Operation Easy Victory. The mission was simple. Invade Earth, take the planet, add it to the Dominion. Earth was a small world orbiting a small star. Its people had only just begun to leave their planet. They had no space military. They had no advanced weapons. They had no allies in the galaxy. The Council said the invasion would take 3 days. Some officers joked it would take only 1. Commander Hayes received his orders on a bright morning in the command center. The holographic display showed Earth from above. It looked small and weak. It looked defenseless. The Council had sent him detailed reports about human technology. The reports showed that humans used primitive weapons. They used chemical explosives. They used basic aircraft. They used ships that moved slowly. The reports said humans were divided into many nations that often fought each other. The reports said humans were weak and easy to frighten. The Dominion had studied Earth for many years. They had watched from hidden observation posts in space. They had learned about human language, human culture, and human weapons. Everything they learned confirmed that Earth was not a real threat. The Council approved the invasion with confidence. They gave Commander Hayes the best ships and experienced soldiers. They told him to crush any resistance quickly and report when the planet was secure. Commander Hayes felt proud to receive this mission. It would be an easy victory. It would show his power and skill. It would prove that the Dominion was still the greatest military force in the galaxy. He began planning the invasion immediately. He calculated where his ships would drop from hyperspace. He chose which cities he would attack first. He ordered his soldiers to prepare their weapons and armor. The invasion fleet left the home system carrying 60,000 soldiers. They had tanks that could crush buildings. They had weapons that could destroy entire blocks of a city. They had aircraft that moved faster than anything on Earth. They had shields that protected them from bullets and explosions. Commander Hayes was confident they would see no real fighting. The humans would surrender as soon as they saw the ships appear in their sky. Far below on Earth, Captain Sarah Mitchell worked in a military command center. She was not a soldier, but she was important to Earth's defense. She was a specialist in detecting objects in space. Her job was to watch the sky for any sign of danger. She worked in a dark room filled with computers and screens. The screens showed different parts of space around Earth. Sarah watched these screens every single day. Sarah Mitchell was 34 years old. She had worked in space detection for 12 years. She had studied space science in university. She was smart. She was careful. She noticed things that other people missed. Her supervisors respected her judgment. They listened when she said something was wrong. Today, Sarah noticed something that made her very worried. The sensors began picking up energy signatures from far away in space. The signatures were large. They were powerful. Sarah had never seen anything like them before. She checked her equipment 3 times to make sure it was working correctly. The sensors were working fine. The signatures were real. Something was coming toward Earth. Something big, something with a lot of power. Sarah called General Porter immediately. General Porter was the head of Earth's defense forces. He was older than Sarah, with gray hair and a serious face. He had spent 40 years protecting Earth. He had experience with military threats. General Porter came to Sarah's command center right away. Sarah showed him the readings on her screen. She pointed at the energy signatures moving toward Earth. General Porter looked at the numbers carefully. His face became hard. He did not speak for a long moment. Then he asked Sarah how long until whatever was coming reached Earth. Sarah checked the calculations. She said 3 days, maybe 4 if whatever it was moved slowly. General Porter closed his eyes for a moment. The general understood what this meant. Something powerful was coming to Earth, something from space, something from outside their world. Humans had always wondered if other beings lived in the galaxy. Now they would find out. General Porter knew they were not ready. Earth had weapons, but they were basic. Earth had soldiers, but they were trained for fighting other humans, not aliens. Earth had no ships in space. They had no way to fight something that could attack from above. General Porter made a decision. He called the United Nations. He called every nation on Earth. He told them all the same thing. An unidentified force was approaching Earth. Every nation needed to prepare their military. Every city needed to prepare for possible attack. Every person needed to understand that something dangerous was coming. The news spread across Earth quickly. People watched their screens. They saw the images from space. They saw the energy signatures getting closer. Some people felt afraid. Some people felt angry. Some people felt determined to fight. Governments began moving soldiers to different locations. Scientists tried to figure out what was coming. Military commanders prepared their weapons. Sarah Mitchell watched the energy signatures get closer every hour. She could now see that there were many objects coming toward Earth. They were arranged like a military formation. Whatever was coming was organized. Whatever was coming wanted to fight. Sarah sent updated warnings to the first attack came without warning. Ships fired energy weapons at the largest city on Earth. The energy beams were blue and bright. They cut through buildings like a knife cutting paper. Thousands of people died in the first few minutes. Fires started everywhere. Smoke filled the sky. Sirens screamed across the city. People ran in all directions, trying to escape the destruction. Commander Hayes watched from his command center high above the planet. The destruction was complete. The humans were running. They were afraid. They were disorganized. This was exactly what he expected. He ordered his soldiers to land in the cities and secure them. He told them to move fast. He told them to crush any resistance. He did not expect much resistance. General Porter watched the destruction on his screens. His hands were shaking with anger and determination. He had only a few hours before the soldiers would land and begin their ground attack. He made hard decisions quickly. He ordered all military forces to move to prepared defensive positions. He called the leaders of every nation and told them to forget their old differences. He told them they were all one people now. They were all fighting for Earth together. This was not a time for nations to fight each other. This was a time for all humans to unite. Sarah Mitchell stood in the command center and watched the chaos. She felt the weight of what was happening. The world she knew was changing in front of her eyes, but she did not freeze. She did not panic. She began sending military commanders the positions of ships. She told them where the invaders would land. She gave them the information they needed to prepare their defense. Every piece of information might save lives. Every warning might help someone survive. The soldiers began landing in different parts of Earth. They came down in metal pods that looked like falling stars. When the pods opened, soldiers emerged in armor that was thick and strong. They carried weapons that looked like nothing Earth had ever seen. The weapons glowed with power. The soldiers expected to walk through Earth cities without any real opposition. They expected scared humans running away from them. They expected quick and easy surrender. But humans did not surrender. Humans fought. Young Pilot was 28 years old. He had been flying military aircraft for 10 years. He had trained for emergency situations. He had dreamed of protecting Earth, but he never thought he would really need to fight aliens. Now the dream was real. Now it was happening. He sat in the cockpit of a modified fighter jet with 3 other pilots. Their commander had given them orders that seemed impossible. They were supposed to attack the command ship. The command ship was massive. It was protected by shields and weapons. 4 small jets against a ship that big seemed like suicide. Did not care that it seemed impossible. He did not care that they probably would not survive. Earth was his home. His family was down there in that burning city. His mother was there. His sister was there. His nephews were there. If he did not fight, if he did not try everything he could, then they might die. The soldiers might kill them. He would rather die fighting than sit in safety while his family was in danger. And his 3 pilots took off in their jets. They flew fast and low to avoid the weapons. They moved between buildings and under bridges. They used the landscape to hide from the sensors. They got closer and closer to the command ship. Weapons started firing at them. Energy blasts filled the air around their planes. One of his pilots was hit. His plane exploded in a bright flash. The other 2 pilots did not stop. They kept flying forward. Got very close to the command ship. He could see details now. He could see the weapons and the shields. He could see the places where the ship was most protected. He also saw a spot where the armor looked weaker. It looked like a place where different pieces of metal joined together, changed his flight path. He aimed directly at that weak spot. The other pilot followed him. They flew directly at the command ship. Weapons fired at them. The energy blasts came close. One blast knocked wing. It damaged his plane but did not stop it, kept flying forward. The other pilot was hit. His plane was damaged but still flying. Both pilots fired their weapons into the weak spot. The missiles hit directly. The explosion was huge. Part of the command ship's armor cracked. The navigation systems were damaged. The command ship lost direction control. Commander Hayes felt the explosion. The entire ship shook. He fell to the floor. He was shocked. Scared humans in small jets had actually damaged his ship. They had actually attacked him. The invasion was supposed to be easy. It was not supposed to be like this. He looked at the damage reports on his screen. His navigation systems were damaged. His shield strength was reduced. His soldiers were still fighting well, but the humans were not giving up. The humans were actually fighting back. The battles continued in every city across Earth. Humans used strategy that surprised the soldiers. They fought in groups. They did not try to win by fighting the soldiers directly. They could not do that. The soldiers were stronger and faster. Instead, humans used their knowledge of their own cities. They used the buildings and streets to surprise their enemies. They attacked supply lines. They cut off communication between soldiers. They used the terrain that they knew so well. A biologist named Dr. Foster was hiding in a laboratory when the invasion started. She was studying sound waves and how they moved through different materials. She was not a military person. She was a scientist, but she understood something about shields. She had seen the technical specifications in military briefings. The shields had a weakness. They were strong against some types of energy, but weak against others. Realized that specific sound frequencies might damage the shields. She worked day and night in her laboratory to create devices that produced those frequencies. Her devices were not weapons in the traditional sense. They were speakers that produced sounds too high for human ears to hear, but the sounds could travel through the air and hit shields. Where the shields were weak, the sound waves would damage them. Military commanders began using devices in their battles. The devices worked. Soldiers found their shields suddenly failing in certain areas. They had to retreat. The humans had found a way to fight them. The humans were not just running away. The humans were actually winning small victories. Every 2 weeks into the invasion, the nature of the war changed completely. What started as soldiers crushing human resistance became a desperate fight for survival. Humans had learned how to fight their alien invaders. More importantly, humans had learned why they had to fight. The invaders were not just attackers. They were destroyers. They killed anyone who resisted. They destroyed buildings and entire neighborhoods. They treated human life as worthless. This made humans angry in a way they had never felt before. Fear turned into rage. Fear turned into determination. Humans across Earth stopped thinking about survival and started thinking about victory. They wanted to push the soldiers back into space. They wanted to make the invaders pay for every building they destroyed and every life they took. General Porter stood in the command center and looked at the maps on his walls. He saw red marks where soldiers were positioned. He saw blue marks where human soldiers were positioned. The war was spreading across the entire planet. Soldiers controlled some cities, but humans controlled others. The balance was shifting. Humans were learning faster than the invaders. Humans were finding new ways to fight. Humans were working together in ways they had never worked before. Nations that had been enemies for centuries were now fighting side by side. American soldiers fought next to Russian soldiers. Korean soldiers fought next to Japanese soldiers. African soldiers fought next to European soldiers. All the old hatreds and disagreements seemed small now. Earth had one enemy. All humans had one job: protect Earth, protect home, protect family. General Porter made a decision. He would not wait for soldiers to come to him. He would go to them. He would launch a massive attack on the positions. He would break their control of the cities. He would drive them back. He called his commanders together and told them his plan. Some commanders thought the plan was too bold, too dangerous. But General Porter knew that humans had discovered their greatest strength. Humans were willing to die to protect their world. The assault began at dawn. Thousands of human soldiers attacked positions in 5 different cities at the same time. They used coordinated attacks that split the forces. They used surprise and speed to overcome superior weapons. Soldiers fought hard. They killed many humans, but they could not be everywhere at once. They could not defend every position. Human soldiers pushed forward in waves. When one group was pushed back, another group attacked from a different direction. Sarah Mitchell worked in the command center, directing human soldiers to where they were needed most. She watched the battle unfold on screens in front of her. She saw soldiers dying. She saw buildings falling. She saw soldiers being pushed back. She gave orders that helped humans win battles. She sent reinforcements to where they were needed. She told commanders where weak points were located. Every decision she made affected thousands of lives. The war moved into the cities. Human soldiers fought in streets and buildings. Soldiers had better weapons, but humans had something better. Humans knew every street. Humans knew every building. Humans had lived in these cities their entire lives. They knew the underground tunnels. They knew the rooftops. They knew the weak points in every structure. They used this knowledge to kill soldiers from unexpected directions. was an engineer before the invasion. She was not a soldier. She did not have military training. But she had a brain that could solve problems. When the invasion started, saw that human weapons were not powerful enough to fight weapons directly. She saw that they needed something different. She needed something that would disable technology. Worked in an underground laboratory with a team of other engineers and scientists. They took old technology. They took pieces of human computers and equipment. They took broken weapons that soldiers had captured. Spent long hours studying how technology worked. She looked at the power systems. She looked at the weapons. She looked at the shields. Then she understood something important. Technology used complex energy systems. If you could create a powerful electromagnetic pulse, you could shut down that technology for a short time. Not forever, just for a few minutes. A few minutes was enough. A few minutes was when soldiers could attack without facing the shields and weapons. A few minutes could change a battle. Designed a device that created a powerful electromagnetic pulse. It was not a weapon exactly. It was a device that produced energy. She built the first prototype from scrap metal and recycled electrical components. It was big and heavy. It needed a lot of power, but it worked. When she turned it on, every piece of technology within 500 meters stopped working. Military commanders began using this device in their battles. When the pulse went off, soldiers lost their shields. They lost their weapons' power. For a few minutes, they were just armored soldiers with no advanced technology. That was when human soldiers attacked. That was when humans killed them. The device was simple but deadly. The device turned the war around. Commander Hayes watched his military position get weaker every day. His soldiers were dying. His weapons were being destroyed. His ships were being damaged by human attacks. He had sent a desperate message to the High Command asking for reinforcements. The High Command had sent back a message telling him to hold on. They would send help, but help would take weeks to arrive. Commander Hayes did not have weeks. He had days. The commander realized something terrible. He had made a mistake that could not be fixed. He had invaded a world thinking the inhabitants were weak. He had underestimated human strength. He had not understood that humans came from a harsh world. Earth had always been difficult to live on. Earth had storms that killed. Earth had heat and cold that killed. Earth had predators. Earth had diseases. For millions of years, humans had survived on this hard world. They had evolved to be tough. They had evolved to be strong. They had evolved to be determined. This toughness made humans different from other species the Dominion had conquered. Other species had given up quickly when they saw superior weapons. Other species had surrendered when their cities were attacked. But humans did not surrender. Humans fought harder when they were hurt. Humans fought with more anger when their cities burned. Humans fought with more determination when their friends died. Soldiers began to lose battles they should have won. Human soldiers pushed them back from the cities. Soldiers retreated to their landing zones. They retreated to their ships. They were not running because they were cowards. They were running because they were losing. For the first, the message spread through the galaxy like fire spreading through dry wood, a small planet called Earth, a species barely capable of space travel. They had defeated the Dominion. The invincible military had been pushed back. The conquest had failed. The invasion was over. Across 1,000 star systems, alien species received this news and could not believe it. The Dominion had ruled through fear. Other species obeyed them because they were powerful. Other species obeyed them because no one had ever successfully resisted them. Now something had changed. A young species from a backwater planet had actually beaten the military in combat. Entire worlds began to wonder what this meant. If the Dominion could be defeated, then maybe they were not as powerful as everyone thought. The Galactic Union received emergency communications from Commander Hayes. His messages were desperate and confused. He asked for reinforcements. He asked for support. He told the Union that the humans were more powerful than expected. He said they had technology that disabled shields. He said they fought with a determination that was hard to understand. He said they seemed to become stronger when they faced bigger challenges instead of weaker. The Council of the Galactic Union called an emergency session. Leaders from every major species came to hear the reports from Earth. They listened to messages from officers. They heard stories about human warriors who fought without fear. They heard about human scientists who created impossible weapons in days. They heard about human pilots who performed suicidal attacks to damage enemy ships. They heard that humans had unified their entire planet to fight as one army. One counselor, a being called from the species, stood up to speak. Was old and had seen many wars in his long life. He said something that made every being in the council chamber fall silent. He said that this was not the first time a species from a harsh world had shown unexpected strength. He said he had studied many planets. He said that species from difficult worlds were always tougher than species from easy worlds. He said humans had lived on a world with storms and predators and temperature extremes. This had made them strong in ways that breeding programs could never create. Another counselor asked a difficult question. If Earth could defeat the Dominion, what would prevent Earth from becoming the next empire? What would stop humans from conquering other worlds? The question hung in the council chamber like a heavy weight. No one knew the answer. Fear began to spread through the galactic community. Perhaps they had traded one threat for another. Perhaps Earth was not a liberator but a new conqueror. But Sarah Mitchell and General Porter had different ideas about Earth's future. They did not want conquest. They wanted peace. They wanted to be part of the galactic community. They wanted to trade and talk and share knowledge with alien species. They did not want to build an empire like the Dominion. They wanted Earth to be a place of peace and learning. General Porter made a decision. He would send representatives to the Galactic Union. He would explain that Earth did not want to conquer anyone. He would explain that humans had only fought to defend their home. He would ask to join the galactic community as peaceful members. He chose Sarah Mitchell and 2 other military commanders to make this journey into space for the first time. Sarah Mitchell walked into a ship that had been captured during the war. The ship had been repaired by human engineers. It now belonged to Earth. She was nervous about leaving her planet. She had never been to space before. But she knew this was important. She knew this was necessary. She carried a message of peace from the people of Earth. The ship flew from Earth toward the galactic capital where the Galactic Union met. It took 4 weeks to travel there. When the ship arrived, Sarah and her team were amazed. The space station was enormous. It was bigger than the largest city on Earth. It held thousands of alien beings. Different species lived together. They spoke different languages. They looked completely different from each other, but they had learned to work together. Sarah Mitchell stood before the Galactic Union Council and told the story of Earth. She told them that humans had not wanted this war. She said the Dominion had come to conquer Earth. She said humans had only fought to survive. She said humans were peaceful by nature and only became warriors when their home was threatened. She said that Earth wanted to join the galactic community and contribute to peace rather than endless conquest. She told them about the pilot who had attacked the command ship knowing he might die. She told them about Foster, the scientist who had created devices to disable enemy weapons. She told them about the engineer who had built electromagnetic pulse generators. She told them about thousands of unnamed soldiers who had fought and died to protect their planet. Sarah explained that these were ordinary humans. They were not bred for war like soldiers. They were teachers and doctors and scientists and farmers. They were mothers and fathers and children. They had learned to fight because they had to protect what they loved. Once the war was over, they wanted to go back to their normal lives. They wanted to build and create and explore. They wanted to learn from other species in the galaxy. The council listened carefully. They asked hard questions. They wanted to know about human intentions. They wanted to know about human weapons and military strength. They wanted to understand this species that had defeated the mighty Dominion. Sarah answered every question with honesty. She did not hide anything. She did not lie about human capabilities, but she made clear that humans would use their strength only to defend themselves and their allies. The vote was close. Some council members wanted to treat Earth as a threat. Some wanted to sign a peace treaty. Some wanted to study humans more before making a decision. But in the end, the majority voted to recognize Earth as a member of the Galactic Union. Earth would not be conquered. Earth would not be destroyed. Earth would be part of the galactic community. The news was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. A new species had entered the galactic community, a species from a harsh world, a species that had proven they could fight against the greatest military power and win, a species that wanted peace but had shown they could defend themselves. The galaxy had witnessed something that had never happened before. The galaxy had seen the legend break like glass against the determination of humans. Commander Hayes received orders to take his remaining ships and return to the home system. The fleet left Earth's orbit and jumped into hyperspace. The invasion was over. The conquest had failed. Humanity had won. Earth was free, but the cost of victory was high. Entire cities had been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands of humans had died. Millions more were homeless. The world that humans knew before the invasion was gone forever. Earth began to recover slowly. Humans rebuilt their cities. They buried their dead. They took care of the wounded and the grieving. The world had changed in ways that would never be reversed. Humans now knew they were not alone in the galaxy. Humans now knew they could defeat enemies that seemed far more powerful. Humans now knew they were stronger than they had ever imagined. Sarah Mitchell left the Galactic Union Council and returned to Earth as a hero. Her story was told in every nation on Earth. She had gone into space and spoken to alien leaders. She had made peace with the galactic community. She had changed Earth's future. But Sarah did not think of herself as a hero. She thought of the people who had died. She thought of the soldiers who had not come home. She thought of the families that had lost everything in the war. General Porter continued to lead Earth's defense forces, but now his job was different. Instead of preparing for invasion, he was preparing for peace. He helped Earth build new relationships with other galactic species. He helped create trade agreements. He helped establish communication with alien civilizations. The isolation of Earth had ended. Now Earth was part of something bigger. Had survived the war. His body was damaged from the explosion in his plane, but his spirit was not broken. He spent his recovery time writing down his story. He wanted people to remember the other pilots who had died with him. He wanted to honor their sacrifice. When he recovered, was given a new job. He trained the first human space pilots. These pilots would defend Earth from space. These pilots would work with other galactic species in space defense forces. Dr. Foster received offers from many different alien species. They wanted her to work for them. They wanted her to develop new technology. They wanted her knowledge and her talent, but chose to stay on Earth. She wanted to help her own people first. She established a research institute focused on peaceful technology. She wanted to create tools that would help humans, not weapons that would kill. The war had shown her the power of human science. She wanted that power to be used for healing and building, not destruction. Became a symbol of human engineering. Her electromagnetic pulse device had changed the course of the war. Now galactic species wanted her technology. Governments wanted to buy her designs. Scientists wanted to study her work, but was troubled by all this attention. She had created the device to save lives. Now people wanted it as a weapon. She worked to develop a new version of her technology that could be used only for peaceful purposes. She did not want humans to become conquerors like the Dominion. The Dominion fell into confusion and conflict. When Commander Hayes returned home with his defeated fleet, he faced a military court. He was judged for the invasion's failure. The court found him guilty of poor judgment, but they did not execute him. Some members of the leadership understood that the fault was not entirely his. The intelligence reports about Earth had been wrong. The Council had made the decision to invade without full understanding of who the humans were. The defeat destroyed the myth of invincibility. Other species that had feared the Dominion began to question their power. Smaller planets began to resist control. Some planets tried to rebel. The Dominion was forced to make new treaties and agreements. The Dominion was forced to treat other species with more respect. The Dominion could no longer rule through fear alone. The legend was broken, and the breaking had happened on a small world called Earth. Across the entire galaxy, the story of Earth's victory spread. Other species studied what had made humans so powerful. Military leaders studied human tactics. Scientists studied human determination. The conclusion was the same. Humans came from a world that was harsh and difficult. That harshness had made humans physically tough, mentally strong, and emotionally determined. Humans would fight to protect their home. Humans would sacrifice everything for their family and their world. That made humans dangerous. That made humans powerful. That made humans worth respecting. Earth's membership in the Galactic Union brought many changes. Humans learned new technology. Humans learned new medicines that extended there. Humans began to explore space and visit other worlds. Humans began to understand that they were part of a larger community, but they also understood that they were different from other species. Humans valued things that other species often did not. Humans valued loyalty to their home. Humans valued sacrifice for others. Humans valued love for their families. 2 years after the invasion ended, Sarah Mitchell stood in a memorial park on Earth. The park was built to remember the soldiers who had died in the war. The park had names of everyone who had died defending Earth. There were thousands of names. Sarah walked slowly and read the names. Each name represented a life. Each name represented a family that had lost someone they loved. Sarah felt the weight of those losses. She thought about what humans had gained. They had gained their freedom. They had gained membership in the galactic community. They had gained the knowledge that they were capable of great things, but they had lost so much. They had lost friends and family members. They had lost cities and homes. They had lost the innocence of a world that did not know about war. Sarah believed the cost had been worth paying. Humans had proven something important. They had proven that smaller species with determination could defeat larger species with superior weapons. They had proven that courage was sometimes more powerful than advanced technology. They had proven that when humans unified around a common purpose, they could accomplish things that seemed impossible. The story of Earth's victory became a lesson taught in schools across the galaxy. Young beings of many different species learned about human resistance. They learned about flying towards certain death. They learned about Foster creating impossible weapons. They learned about building devices that changed the course of war. They learned about millions of ordinary humans choosing to fight rather than surrender. Scientists across the galaxy began to study harsh worlds more carefully. They realized that species from difficult environments were often stronger and more resilient than species from easy environments. This discovery changed how galactic military leaders thought about war. The Dominion had made the costliest mistake in galactic history. They had assumed that advanced weapons meant automatic victory. They had not understood that determination could not be measured in weapons. They had not understood that willingness to sacrifice could not be calculated in data. Earth became a symbol of resistance to galactic oppression. Smaller species that faced bigger threats thought of Earth's victory. They thought of how humans had stood against an empire. They drew hope from the knowledge that victory was possible even when the odds seemed impossible. Earth had changed the galaxy forever. A small world with a young species had changed the future of 10,000 worlds. Commander Hayes spent the rest of his life in retirement. He never commanded a military force again. He spent his time writing about what he had learned on Earth. He wrote that humans were different from any species he had ever encountered. He wrote that the reports about Earth had been dangerously incomplete. He wrote that the Dominion should have sent scientists to study humans before sending soldiers to conquer them. His writings became important military history in the Dominion. Military commanders studied his lessons. The mistake made on Earth was never repeated again. Years passed. Earth grew stronger and more important in the galactic community. More alien species visited Earth. More humans traveled to other worlds. The integration into galactic society continued. But humans never forgot the war. Humans never forgot the soldiers who had died. Humans remembered that they had once stood alone against an invading force from the stars. Humans remembered that they had chosen to fight. Humans remembered that they had won. The invasion that was supposed to end in 3 days had lasted 3 weeks. The invasion that was supposed to be an easy victory had become the costliest defeat in galactic history. The species that was supposed to be weak had proven to be strong. The humans had survived. The humans had fought. The humans had won, and the entire galaxy had witnessed something it would never forget. The day a young species from a harsh world had defeated the greatest military empire in the known galaxy. The day Earth changed everything was over. The conquest had failed. The legend of invincibility had ended on a small world called Earth. He did not know what would happen when he returned home. He did not know if he would face execution. He did not know if the Dominion would collapse from the shame of this defeat. He only knew that his greatest mistake had been created by his greatest assumption. He had assumed humans were weak. That assumption had cost him everything. Time in 300 years, the Dominion was losing a war. Commander Hayes knew what was happening. The invasion was failing. The conquest would not happen. The humans had defeated him. A species he thought was weak had destroyed his military superiority. The legend of invincibility was ending, and it was ending on a small planet called Earth. Small victory made humans more confident. Every small victory made more soldiers willing to continue fighting. Commander Hayes realized his terrible mistake. The reports about Earth had been completely wrong. Humans were not weak. Humans were not easy to fight. Humans would fight for their home. Humans were creative. Humans could think fast and adapt quickly. Humans had something the reports had missed. Humans had hope. Humans had love for their families and their world. Humans had determination that refused to accept defeat. The invasion that was supposed to take 3 days was now very hard and slow. The soldiers were dying. Their supplies were running low. Their ships were being damaged. They were fighting an enemy they had greatly underestimated. General Porter every hour. Each update showed the objects getting closer. On the 3rd day, the objects appeared in Earth's sky. They were ships, big ships, strange ships, nothing Earth had ever seen before. Their shapes were sharp and angular. Their color was dark gray like the color of storm clouds. They moved fast through the atmosphere without making the loud noise that Earth's planes made. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. The invasion had begun. Commander Hayes looked down at Earth below him. He saw cities and oceans and mountains. He saw humans moving below like small insects. He smiled. The invasion would be easy. The humans would surrender. Earth would soon belong to the Dominion. Nothing could stop him now.